I watched the Michael biopic and I could not help but feel the question, brewing in my spirit. The question, why now? Why now? Why now? And why did they produce this biopic? Why are we being inundated and pushed on to watch this movie? What is this about? What is the agenda about behind this movie? What was the reason that they produced this movie, released it in April 2026? What are these? I have these questions, and I have to be fair. This can get on a lot of people's nerves. I know it gets on my husband's nerves because he's an optimist. He's very much the kind of man who was like, maybe there was nothing behind it. Maybe it was just innocent. But I'm like, let me ask God. Let me go ask God why they pushed this movie onto us and why they released it at this particular time. Okay. Now, in a recent video, you can watch this video. I talk about the age of the giant, and how in this Iran war, okay, they are using this Iran war to usher humanity into the age of the giant. What does that mean? You'll have to watch the video, but I'll give you a little bit of what that video was about. But in this video, I talk about how we're entering into the age of the Nephilim, the giant, in which very many people who are 7 foot tall, 8 foot tall will walk the earth, and it'll be normal. It will be just commonplace. It will also be very commonplace for the giants, the Nephilim, to be worshipped and admired. It will be commonplace for them to walk among the earth, and people don't find anything odd about it, okay? If someone who is 7 foot, 8 foot tall were to go to Walmart, it's going to be a spectacle. People are going to look at that person and they'll be, whoa. So, one of the piece of revelations that I learned particular from a man named Craig Lewis, who often talks about hip-hop and whatnot, he talks about how Michael Jackson operated through a spirit of the Nephilim, a spirit of the giant. I don't know what Nephilim, I don't know what giant, but he talks about how a lot of these huge Hollywood stars actually embody spirits of the Nephilim, these giant beings. And when you look at Genesis 6, it talks about how the Nephilim were Gibbereans in Hebrew, which are men of renown and fame, men of old and men of renown, which are men who are famous. Okay, these are men and giant beings that are very famous, very well known, very big. Okay, they were war stars, famous for whatever it is that they did. Okay, now keep that in mind. It's April 2026, and what we've been inundated with, politically at least, is the Iran war. Okay, Genesis 6, remember, the Nephilim were men of war and renown. Iran war is occurring in in April 2026. Genesis 6. Just keep that in mind. The Michael Jackson movie was released in April 24th. Okay, 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. So we're seeing some patterns. We see Genesis 6 that talks about the Nephilim. Then we see that the movie was produced or released, premiered in April 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. And then in April as a whole, 2026, we are being inundated with the Iran war. Now, keep all that in mind. What I personally believe is that I believe that this Michael Jackson movie was a movie that was sent to reinforce giant worship, Nephilim worship. Okay? It was sent to reinforce the worship and the programming to worship spirits of the Nephilim. Okay? So when individuals and entities that began to come in the age of the giants, like Nephilim, when they began to show themselves, people have been programmed to worship them, to be enamored and marveled by them. In Revelation 16, it talks about the beast, okay? And how the people of this earth marveled at the beast. They were marveled by him. They had wonder. They wondered after the beast. And that word wonder in its etymology is to marvel, okay? And in the Greek, it means to marvel, okay? And the Antichrist, which is in Revelation 16, I believe it will be a Nephilim being. It will be a being that either comes from a Nephilim bloodline or is a Nephilim, okay? And so in Revelation 16, it talks about humanity marveling and wondering after the beast. Now, Michael Jackson is one of the most famous individuals of all time. He is the most famous individuals of all time as far as Hollywood goes. And people quite literally worshipped him. And according to Craig Lewis, and I believe him 100%, that not only did Michael Jackson, but very many of the stars actually channeled spirits of the Nephilim. Even when you watch the movie Michael, the biopic, you see and you will hear particular scenes where Michael in the movie says that he was channeling from the creator. He was channeling and getting inspiration, drawing inspiration and channeling from a creator. Then Jafar Jackson himself in a particular interview, I don't remember the interview, you can look this up, go look up an interview with Jafar Jackson. He actually talks about how he had to do a lot of spiritual work and channeling to perform and to do this movie. Now, I cannot say and I cannot prove whether Michael Jackson was a person who came from a Nephilim bloodline. I would not say that because I cannot prove that, and I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that because, again, I do like Michael Jackson. God's going to have to deliver me. But even though I cannot say Michael Jackson, bloodline-wise, DNA-wise, comes from a Nephilim bloodline, I will say, and I 100% believe, that Michael Jackson as a star, the persona of Michael Jackson, is definitely charged and channeled by a spirit of the Nephilim, which is what draws people to worship him and draws the masses to enjoy, love, and all these things. Okay? Same thing with Beyonce, but I'm going to leave that alone. So again, I believe that this movie was reinforcement to the worship of Nephilim spirits and beings that will show up as time progresses, okay? There will be a time where Nephilim beings will walk the earth and it will be commonplace just as it was in Genesis 6. And when it becomes commonplace, very many people on this earth will worship and marvel and wonder after these beings. They put it all in the movies. They put Nephilim beings in the Marvel movies. Marvel. Like when you watch Marvel and all this stuff, those are Nephilim entities, like Superman and DC, all of the Thors and whatever. Those are Nephilim creatures and beings, okay? And in that society, it was commonplace that they existed. Now, I want you to keep in mind that a lot of people, and I believe this to be true, that stardom is decreasing. A lot of people say this like, oh, social media got rid of stardom and, you know, superstars aren't really a thing anymore. That is true, and I believe the reason for that is because of the whole out with the old kind of shindig that a lot of Freemasons believe in. Out with the old, in with the new. From chaos comes order. To bring in a new thing, you must get rid of the old thing. That's all Freemasonic manipulation, Hegelian, not manipulation, those are all Hegelian and Freemasonic ideologies. Out with the old, in with the new. And so I believe that they are getting rid of Hollywood stardom, the whole Hollywood, oh, we're so enamored by these Hollywood stars. They're getting rid of that because they're about to bring in a new global institution, and that's going to be, I believe, super heroism or Nephilim heroism entities that come in who will now be the new stars, okay? They won't be like what we've seen before with Beyonce and Michael Jackson, but it will be a new thing where it is Nephilim entities that may actually operate as heroes. And I certainly believe that the Iran War is a perfect opportunity to do that, to institute this heroism stardom where Nephilim beings are being drafted among those who are mandatorily drafted to this war. I can see them drafting Nephilim beings and the Nephilim beings being set up as the heroes of this Iran War, and then all of the masses being enamored and glad that this Iran War is finished, because I definitely see this being a very long war. The masses are happy that the war has been put to an end and the Nephilim will be set up as the heroes. This is how I'm seeing it. You kind of see this in the Man of Steel movie, but I'm going to go ahead and end this video because it's already long.